Hola, hola. I'm Trek with 2Ks, and welcome to another episode of Weekend Crypto. What is this? A week later after Bitcoin Miami and the other different events that I went to. So I'm a little bit more rested now, and basically I'm about to drop some stories on y'all. This weekend, the last 72 hours, as far as what came out, some of it is not necessarily eye-catching and more popish kind of news. But if you read it in between the lines, things are being signaled, things are being said. And so we're going to jump into this first one here, which is out of Cointelegraph. And basically, it's this guy named Hart Lamber, and he's talking about how regulatory regulations are coming into the space more, and it's going to mean more capital, and it's going to be more, vying for the talent, the people who can code, the people who can come up with the business ideas, and the people who can make who can execute project development and things like that. And that's what he's basically saying in this thing. And I highlighted some stuff. As you can see, we're trying to make some improvements on things here. Granted, I'm still not going to read entire articles. I'm only giving the hot takes of the things that have my attention. And so beginning part, like I said, he's talking about just how it's being more scrutinized as far as the regulator is concerned. There's more organization coming in or settling in to say, I guess, which means, hey, President Biden's executive order is starting to like show its face a little bit more for when he said that. I think that was like 2 weeks ago at this point. Now, excuse me, I'm jumping down to, he makes a reference to ETH Denver, and he talks about how it looked less fringy. And I went to ETH Denver. ETH Denver was interesting because ETH Denver represents more of the technical side versus where Bitcoin Miami's event was more about the money business side. So like, yes, there were techie people, but like the audience and crowd and just mood on ETH Denver was, to me, more eccentric of a community appearance than what I saw at Bitcoin Miami. But that's just me and my interpretation, right? This particular gentleman's interpretation, he's like, oh no, it don't look as fringy as it used to be. Okay, that's true too. That is definitely true too. If you was out at ETH Denver, leave a comment in the comment section and let me know, like, do you agree with me or do you agree with what he's saying? So another thing, jumping through, again, I'm hitting it as far as like the things that caught my attention the most or the first. TradeFi. Never heard of TradeFi until I actually read this thing. I will say though, the most scariest line that I think to me came out of this whole article was this one here, which is basically the DeFi space is growing more academic, both in team construction and recruitment. Now, the reason why I find that to be a scary thing is because if you talk to those of us who came under the era of about blockchain technology being permissionless, open source, uncensorable, if you know anything about how the academia realm works, you know it's about a gate guard system. So that particular line to me is like a watershed moment or a canary in the coal mine of how this space is switching up. Don't mean you got to agree with me. That's just my interpretation on how I read these things, right? So now jumping into this next story. Again, actually, let me jump back one. This dude actually comes from Wall Street. He's a financial dude. He's from that cloth of folks. So his perspective isn't from my more techie perspective or my more cypherpunk perspective, right? He's looking at it as like, this is business. This is how we get adoption going. We get more regulations. We're able to pay people more, but it comes at a cost though. This kind of talking comes at a cost in regards to what Simon Dixon calls the financial innovation cycle. More regulation eventually leads to more exclusion. I'm gonna bring that up in another point, another day probably, I don't know. But anywho, other thing happening is President Biden announces former Ripple advisor as pick for the Fed vice chair for supervision. This came out late on Friday. And yeah, this one kind of threw me when I read it again, not going through the whole thing. You can see what the headlines are, not the headlines, but the websites are. So you can definitely find these things to read through on your own if you want to read more in depth. So this line caught my attention. This line caught my attention. He said, the White House says, according to the White House, he was a key architect of the Dodd-Frank Act, legislation that continues to influence financial policy in the United States. People, warriors, people, the Dodd-Frank Act is part of why when you put your money into a bank, you don't own your money. The Dodd-Frank Act is part of why a bank can freeze your money and say, no, we won't give it to you. What is it, like Chapter 8, Section 2 or something like that? I can't remember exactly what it is, but the Dodd-Frank Act is not a friend to economic sovereignty. If you're talking about the whole privacy thing, if you're talking about just being able to do regular, simple, sketchy criminal activities, the Dodd-Frank Act is what puts the bank, i.e. the government by extension of the bank, in your business. Like they just walk around with their hand in your pocket, okay? Bottom line. But anyway, I'm running on a rant on that one. The point to me, and what got me with this is this dude is being nominated for this position. He hasn't gotten a full clearing as far as like both, you know, the Congress and the Senate is concerned. But yeah, there was nothing else that caught me inside the story. I do think though that this particular senator here, Sherrod Brown, I'm saying his name wrong. He's doing a little bit of signaling himself, but whatever. I don't know if I trust this situation and how it's going to play out, because now it gets into this person gets into the position, Powell ends up getting out when the administration changes over. Do they move up, or is he going to stay in the same position and then carry over into the next administration? Because you just can't start certain policies in one administration and not have someone or be there yourself to carry them over into the next administration. And this dude being in that position, it's definitely not going to be he starts something and then isn't there to finish it. At least that's how I'm reading the scenario. Again, I call this the hashtag trust this decade, and I don't trust none of the government folks. And those of y'all who know me know how other things is going on in my personal life. So I say it from a very unique position, okay? Other than that, I'm moving on to the next one. Here we go. So Opera, if you do not know about Opera is a web browser that you can use on your desktop and you can use on mobile. The Android folks, we've been playing with Opera for like how long now? What I think is really dope with Opera is you can do an automatic VPN. So like once you open up the browser, the VPN automatically turns on. Granted, I haven't done enough due diligence to say if Opera is better than Brave. I just know when stuff was happening with DuckDuckGo and like what they've been doing, I didn't run the Opera, I ran over to Brave, and that's kind of how I work my stuff. Nonetheless, this article is about how you can now use Opera on the iOS devices. So for you Apple Box folks, you're welcome. Like, welcome to this, you know, side of the world. I hate on y'all. I do digs. I'm not gonna lie. You know what's funny though? I got an Apple phone. It ain't my main phone, but I got one though. So yeah, I'm what is it? The pot calling the kettle black? Yeah, that's me right now. And so Opera is looking to integrate more proof of stake related blockchains as far as how their wallet is going to function within the Android or desktop or OS setup. Personally, not necessarily a fan of that, because I look at proof of stake as a whale kind of game. But nonetheless, we have proof of stake now. We obviously understand that not everything is going to be proof of work. There's the whole, you know, fight on that whole thing, whatever. But this is just to say, guess what? You Apple folks can use Opera right now. So don't ask me why they waited until like the weekend to like say this, but there you have it. You're able to use Opera now. Oh, actually, the other thing, I think the actually most interesting technical thing in this whole article is this line right here, which is about the how Opera partnered with Yat, which allows you to use emojis as like website links to search for something. I might have to dig in a little bit more on that on my own time, but I honestly think that that's the most interesting part in this whole article. That's just me though. Nonetheless, you can look into this yourself. Again, this is on Cointelegraph, and this is the title of the article right here. And so jumping into the next thing, this joint right here caught my attention on the end of, if you were only at Bitcoin Miami and you had no idea that Monerotopia was going on across the way over in Wynwood, no, actually, no, that's a lie. It wasn't. Bitcoin Miami was only a couple of blocks from Monerotopia. Like, I think, I want to say like a 16, 15-minute walk. It's interesting to see this come up now. Again, it's one of those things of like, you drop it when nobody's really paying attention. I will say though, shout outs to Jason for actually covering this. I know Jason, good dude. He writes some good stuff. So shout outs to him for the coverage on this. Kind of mad that it got dropped on the weekend though, you know, when everybody out living their life, partying, forgetting about the weekday, but whatever. Nonetheless though, the basic idea is that some of the people in the Monero community are like, hey, we don't believe exchanges, centralized exchanges in particular, are being upfront with how much Monero, aka XMR, that's the ticker for it, they have. Personally, I don't understand if you got Monero and it's about the privacy, you know, positive control, economic sovereignty thing, why you have your stuff on an exchange to begin with. But, you know, I'm just here trying to learn like the rest of y'all and what this story is telling me. The bottom line is, just like we have proof of keys day in Bitcoin, Monero community is looking to start theirs, or at least have it be more, you know, bigger across the community. Where on the 18th of this month, which is funny enough, the last day that you can file for extension on your taxes stuff. So that's this Monday, right? That's when they're looking to do the exchange run, and it's going to be interesting to see. I'm curious on how the Monero run is going to be trending tomorrow and stuff. Hopefully it actually does generate some activity, like to show that like the people in the community like actually care about this. Because I'm gonna tell you like this, right? I know where I was at during the whole Bitcoin Miami thing, and I can tell you how many people I saw at Monerotopia, and I can tell you how many people I saw over at Bitcoin Miami that were, you know, not caring about privacy or economic sovereignty, in the sense of, honestly, y'all, like, pretty, in my opinion, in my little 2 cents, right? My 2 Satoshis. Bitcoin Miami was more of a, hey, let's get the bag, and a lot more talk on the end of, let's bring in the regulators and let's have some more tracking, tracing things added into the space. That's just my interpretation compared to the things that I heard over in Monerotopia, right? That's just how I took it. But nonetheless, this is going down today. If you got Monero on an exchange, you might want to participate. You might not want to participate. Do what you do. I'm gonna leave it on that one, y'all. And there was actually, yeah, there was nothing else that really got me in this. Oh, this did get me though. This senator person here, who was it? Okay, where's the name? Douglas Tuman. So I'm curious on the end of, you sound down for Monero now. Let's see what happens when your re-election comes up. And let's see what happens if, you know, regulations out of what Biden said during his executive order comes out, and then like how that starts playing out in different agencies and stuff, Monero gets on the no-no list. Are you still going to be talking this way? I don't know. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong or right in the comments. Would greatly appreciate it. And, we're going to go from there. So, next joint. Ooh, I did not want to do that. There we go. All right. So, I say this. If you've never been to the Middle East or you never flown internationally, you got to understand the money in the sandbox is ugly money. And when I say ugly money, I mean it's deep pockets. That's what I'm really saying. So we're jumping in this story. So Emirates Airlines launches NFT as it flies into the metaverse. Now, when I first initially was reading through this article, there's a couple of lines that kind of caught my attention. And then I reread it again and I was like, wait a minute. Oh, I see what y'all are doing. So basically, the government of Dubai, they spent millions of dollars on this huge ass facility that only served a one-time purpose, right? It was for this big convention, this expo thing in 2020. Funny, that's a whole nother story. Nonetheless, so now they're like, yo, we got this space, we need to do something with it. So what do? They're like, oh, well, let's repurpose it. And then they don't say this, but this is what it really is. It is going to be a co-working space that also has the function of an accelerator for NFT, metaverse, blockchain related companies. It's going to be a co-work space, bottom line. Now, the other line that caught me in this particular story, actually, this one doesn't matter to me anymore now. It's this one right here. The reason why this line matters to me the most is because what I've started hearing over the last year and a half, there's been a lot more talk about being the hub of crypto or being the hub of Bitcoin or whatever protocol blockchain you want to go with. Now, when you say the hub of something, you're implying that there's a physical location. And if you're saying there's a physical location, that means that there's like a governing body over that physical location. This is the stuff that we're going to start to hear more about. And funny enough, Dubai has been what's the guy's name? I can't remember the name of their president, not president person, but the person who's in charge of their country from that royal family. He's basically like, yeah, let's set up this regulation to make it that we can have more investment within the blockchain crypto industry. So they already started that. But the idea of like, we have a physical hub place, right, means jurisdiction and laws and regulations and policies and regulators come with it. So for me, the signal here is there's going to be more regulation that will arguably work to be friendlier in Dubai compared to some of its neighboring countries and regions and jurisdictions, and that they got ugly money out there and it's generational money on top of that. So, and plus you got the whole thing of new, what's the word I'm looking for? The new wealth class that's coming in who got rich off of crypto. So we're gonna jump into this next thing. I'm running long on this one, I'm sorry. Real quick, yo. So I read that story with Charles and it had me laughing. You can follow up on this one, right? He ain't really say nothing. Okay, so here's what happened. Elon says what he says about making an offer to buy Twitter, which then doesn't happen. And the board does this funky thing that's called like a death pill or something with how they did the shares. Excuse me. And I'm not going to run into that. The thing that got me with this particular article, again, not everything catches my attention, is he says what he says. Elon doesn't say nothing really back to him. But however and wherever, who was it? Twitter's community. No, it wasn't that line. It was Sam's line. Sam's line is the most interesting line to me in this whole particular article. Basically, what the author of the article does is he talks about Charles Hopkins, he mentions Elon Musk, he talks about how the Twitter space made fun Crypto Twitter made fun of Hoskins in regards to like, hey, you take forever to build stuff that you have right now for yourself. So why are you even trying to mess with Twitter? Sam Bankman comes in and makes his own little comment on something, which basically rolled out to saying tweets will now go, Tweets will now go on chain, in other words, encrypted. Now, I'm not necessarily a fan of all of the things that come out of his camp from the end of decentralization, privacy, economic sovereignty, all of that fun woo-woo stuff. From the business standpoint, though, Sam be on point with it. Sam hit the ball out the park when it came to Bitcoin Miami and the announcement he made, right? Now, this to me is one of those like, oh, okay, so you having conversations, you thinking certain things, and you're having those conversations around what you would like to be able to propose out or actually implement in coming years, if he gets to be a part of that. That's just me and how I'm reading these things as far as like down the road signals. Twitter might have a very different look come 2030. I don't know. We'll see. But this was the one line that caught my whole attention. And then the part of how they was making fun of Charles too. It was funny. You can read it for yourself upon the tweets. Jumping into this last story. Okay, so here we have it, right? American Idol partners with Theta Labs. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know nothing about Theta Labs. I don't know nothing about Theta. What I do know is when I started reading through this article, what I seen was American Idol is testing a new revenue model for how they can continually receive funds off of the contestants who come on the show. That's the bottom line of what this is, right? What's the other line? Because when you read through this article, it doesn't really give you all of the details of like how the wallet functions or like what are the exact terms of use for the NFTs. I'm not certain if this is going to be like how Top Shots work or like how Vive works, where it's really what you're getting is digital assets. But I know that Theta does have a wallet where you control the private keys. But if you look at like what goes on in Ethereum, there's a revoke function call in like I think it's Bored Ape Yacht Clubs and CryptoPunks, I think, have it. One of them recently fixed that. But the point being is you don't get none of that detail in this article. And so it sounds all good because they're selling the fluff side of it. This is the narrative. I would look at this and think if you do get the stuff, what's really happening is they're getting the money up front. You don't know what the career of these people is really going to turn into. And so since you don't actually know that, I'm curious as to like where the market develops out of this scenario. If they do have the ability to control transactions as far as, reversing or freezing them, not to mention connecting that to like, what happens if this person doesn't succeed in American Idol, but 8 years down the road, they succeed through their own means? I don't even know how long the contracts work on American Idol for like, if you go in and let's say you get cut out in the first 2 weeks, like, is there a clause that bars you from doing stuff for like 2, 3 years, 5 years? I don't know. I don't pay attention to this stuff. But it definitely has me wondering, how will the utility actually work in regards to outside of what they're telling you could do with it, which is like, hey, you get to come to one of the American Idol shows at the end if you get X amount of the people who are in the finals or whatever. I don't know, man. Like, I'm gonna close it with this, y'all. This sounds good, but what then made me question this whole thing as just a money grab for American Idol and Theta Labs is the article closes out with mentioning that who is it? Katy Perry partnered with Theta Labs to do her NFT last June. So I imagine that as the show progresses for whenever it starts, there's going to be X amount of mention of Katy Perry's NFT. And yeah, there'll be the stuff about the contestants, but there might be more of a little push for Katy Perry stuff. Just saying, that's how I interpret it. Nonetheless, I'm closing it out on this. So If you don't know, the live stream is Monday through Friday for the Gentlemen of Crypto. That's King and Zay. I'm here with the weekend crypto on the Monday. Yes, it's a pre-record, but you know, I got to get it in, got to put it out there for y'all. If you're interested in what I said, whether it was good or bad, definitely leave a comment. We would really appreciate that. Also, if you could like and share, that would be another good thing too. We got, as we've been joking and calling it, this is going to be like the crypto death row, because like we coming out with the squad on all types of different content. And I'm going to close it to say I'm Shrek with 2Ks, and this is Weekend Crypto. So I hope y'all have a good week, and one.